Forecast with Grindberg and Biggs. He is Grindberg. Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Biggs. He is Grindberg. I am Biggs. We are here to talk to you about our boom landmines. Producer. All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Biggs. I am Biggs. He is Grindberg. You're watching the Fantasy Football Advice Network on YouTube, and I fumbled. I fumbled that intro. I'm, having technical difficulties. I'm sick. I'm drinking hot toddies. I'm trying to manage 3 computer screens at the same time, etc. And but you don't care about that. We're talking about our top 3 running back ADP landmines in 2024. Let's get into it. But before that, how are you doing, Grindberg?
I'm doing good, man.
Okay, thank you. Now, my number 3 is Najee Harris. He's currently being drafted at RB22. Now, if I recall correctly, and we're talking about ESPN.com, Yahoo.com, CBSSports.com, NFL.com, etc., your family leagues, your work leagues, there are 2 running back positions. And if Najee Harris is being drafted in the top 24, that means that he's being drafted as one of those 2 starters in your roster. And that is not tenable. Let's look at the Atlanta Falcons last year, because the Atlanta Falcons had a head coach whose name was Arthur Smith, and this year the Pittsburgh Steelers, of which Najee Harris is a team member, is one of the running backs. Arthur Smith had split running backs last year, and the one that they went to the most was Bijan Robinson. Tyler Algier is capable in the passing game, but he's more of like a workhorse interior guy. That's Najee Harris's MO. He runs the ball in the middle. He's also got Jaylen Warren there. Jaylen Warren has been more efficient throughout his career, and if he's outproducing Najee Harris, he's going to get the looks. Najee Harris is not going to get the looks, and Jaylen Warren is being drafted well behind Najee Harris. Najee Harris might get the bulk of the carries, but he's not going to do a whole lot with it, and he's certainly not going to be worthy of being in your top 2 running backs. Austin Eckler is the other one. Now, Austin Eckler is a unicorn. He came into the league and defied his profile. He was a small school guy. He was undersized, blah, blah, blah. The Chargers figured out a way to use him, and he became Austin Eckler and was RB1, 2 for quite a while. He is old now, and he's in a new regime. He's got Brian Robinson ahead of him. They've been using him as a kick returner, which, maybe you're playing the Scott Fish Bowl, and that might be a boost, but not in redraft leagues. My number 1, we talked about this before.
Yay, Biggs, man. Pump the brakes again. Jeez, are you going to let me speak for once?
Yeah. For once, every time. I would just set up the
fair
bit.
enough. I'm just so gullible. It's this Canadian blood running through my veins. I'm just gullible. I'm sorry, Ben. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No worries, eh?
All right. Well, my first ADP landmine is going to be talking about Aaron Jones, and drafted him in 2024 despite his past success and efficiency. He is 29 years old.
Wait a minute. Hold up.
What?
Now, when we do the show sheet, you typically put out the show sheet for us with your people in it, and then we fill it in.
Yeah.
So I didn't research Aaron Jones, but Aaron Jones is being drafted higher. Aaron Jones is being drafted higher than Najee Harris. He's being drafted at ADP 18 with Ty Chandler on that team. All right, proceed, because that's fucking crazy.
It's crazy, and the thing is that we're going to talk about a couple of these guys next week on our sleeper show, and Ty Chandler's on there with mine. So just getting you guys a little bit of a sneak peek at what's ahead next week. But But, Jones is age 29. He's entering that age range where running backs typically see a decline in production. Statistical analysis indicates that running backs in their late 20s and beyond experienced a decrease in half PPR points per game, yards per carry, and after the contact. He's got a small percentage of running backs in this age group that can maintain that high level of performance, and I just don't think Aaron Jones, with his injury past, can keep up in a new offense. So drafting Aaron Jones in 2024 is going to be a risky one. There are red flags all over his situation, and with his age, injury risk, new team, tread carefully and find a smoother path in your draft. My next ADP landmine at the running back position is DeAndre Swift, and statistically speaking, his fantasy outlook for 2024 isn't as rosy as it may seem. Despite flashes of brilliance in his early career, Swift's trajectory has been marred by inconsistency and declining usage, particularly in the passing game. His diminishing target share and goal line opportunities raises concerns, and he has a new offense. His landing spot in Chicago brings uncertainty regarding offensive efficiency, especially with a potential rookie quarterback. Drafting DeAndre Swift in 2024, I would proceed with caution. Red flags all over the place, a murky situation at quarterback. His fantasy future is just a little less promising than what he's being drafted at. So, Biggs, round us out here with your top pick, and then I will talk about my number one landmine at the running back position. Who do you got?
I love that you said red flags, because my girlfriend and I came up with this thing that was like doing these red flag things because we were watching Bridgerton. And if you haven't watched Bridgerton, watch it. It's good. And these dudes, this 19th century aristocracy, these dudes, everything coming out of their mouth is a red flag. So we'd start doing this like every time because it was a red flag. So that was funny. All right. Anyway, watch Bridgerton. My number one spotlight, shining on. And I spoiled this, or I alerted this in our last episode on wide receivers and the previous one on quarterbacks. But we are fading Eagles for not some strange reason, for real analytical reasons. My fade, my number one landmine spotlight is Saquon Barkley. Number one, he does have competition in his backfield, and I'm talking about Will Shipley, who you've heard about on this show before. He's going to get some run. Now, Saquon Barkley is being drafted as RB6. I love Saquon Barkley. I've loved him. When he came out, he is the profile standard for draftable running backs. When you are looking at like a Breece Hall or a Bijan Robinson or something like that, Breece Hall or Saquon Barkley is the dude that you are comparing them to as far as draftable profile. But that was a lot of years ago. That was a few injuries ago. And I've invested in Saquon Barkley a few times. And more times than not, I've been screwed by his injury history. We can't predict injuries, but Saquon Barkley has had terrible injury luck. He's trying to get back from an injury last season. I was saved in the Scott Fish Bowl because somebody drafted Saquon ahead of my second-round pick, and I had him targeted. So I didn't have to deal with that. But in redraft leagues, what are we expecting Saquon to do? Are we expecting Saquon to jump in to this Eagles offense with Jalen Hurts as a rushing quarterback and rush for 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns? If you're expecting that, you're wrong. And if you're drafting him,
hell no.
And if you're thank you. And if you're drafting him at 6, that's what you're expecting. Now, let's start talking about the running backs that are sitting behind him. And you know me, I fade quarterbacks. So I'm hitting hero RB. I'm hitting like wide receiver stacking in the first 10 rounds of my redraft leagues. Saquon Barkley going in the first round, I'm not taking that bait because later on, for some reason, I can grab Devon Achane, who had one of the most efficient seasons last season. Kyron Williams, who may have established himself as a secure RB1. ETN, Travis Etienne. Let's talk about that in a second. Schultze, Travis Etienne. He's a receiving threat. He hasn't had goal line touches, and they're starting to talk about getting Tank Dell more touches, blah, blah, blah. But Etienne has been the running back to own in the Jacksonville backfield. Rashad White, who is a threat between the tackles and in the passing game. Alvin Kamara, I talked about him on the show before, 17 points per game in the games he was playing. He's an RB5. KW3, we're talking about K9. Why would anybody not draft Kenneth Walker, but they would draft Saquon Barkley? Because of Zach Charbonnet. Right, but Kenneth Walker gets on the field more than Charbonnet. Ramondre Stevenson. We talked about this in our last Arby's in our gold mines. He is primed for a big year. And finally, another guy I've talked effusively about, Zeus White in Las Vegas. All of these guys I would much rather roster than Saquon Barkley. They don't cost as much in draft capital. Don't draft Saquon Barkley. He's a landmine. Talk to me about ETN, Schultze.
ETN. Oh, I love ETN, baby. So I heard something recently. The Jags, I guess, faced the most stacked boxes last year, which I was unaware of, which makes a ton of sense because the O-line was trash. So if you just load the box, they can't block. So you have the numbers instantly. And the O-line couldn't pass block either in the interior. So all that makes sense. And with the speed they're adding, I would highly expect that stacked box number to drop quite a bit for the Jags. So yeah, ETN, I think there's an improvement there. Mitch Morse being brought in is going to be huge for keeping the line, handing out blocking assignments and stuff, because there was a ton of problems with that last year. And yeah, Tank Bigsby just ain't it. So yeah, I'm in on ETN. But how about Saquon? Am I drafting him? Hell to the no.
Hell to the no.
We've got a couple of reasons. So he's not going to be the goal line touch guy. Like, that's huge. You're drafting an RB1 who's not going to be getting the ball at the 1 yard line. Like you said, Eagles rotate backs a decent amount. And Saquon has 643 touches over the last 2 seasons. Combine that with the injury stuff, there is not a chance they're going to sit here and load this guy up with 300 touches again to me. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then to top it all off, he is no longer exponentially the most talented player on the offense. So like I said, the touches aren't going to be there, and the rest of the team is just damn good. And so they aren't going to just hand it to Saquon every time. So yeah, I'm out on that.
That's a great point, him not being the best player on that offense. Because when he was with the Giants, it was like, feed Saquon. Now he's got A.J. Brown. He's got Devontae Smith. He's got Jalen Hurts, who can run the ball as well, if not better, than Saquon can. And Dallas Goedert. And don't sleep on Will Shipley. there are so many guys in that offense. Saquon Barkley, if he has a fully healthy 17-game season, will have a good year in real life. But in fantasy football, it's not going to win you a championship. And that's what we're here to do, is to build your champion.
I tweeted at one point that I think it's a great real life signing, but it stinks for fantasy.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, even my dog agreed with me a minute ago. So
you should follow Schultze at SCHU1TZY.
Bye.
And then you'll
all right, Schultze. Thanks for
like that.
All right. Well,
you should also hey, I'm going to talk over you, Mike. You should also follow me at Big Boned FFB. You should also follow Mike at FF Connect 99.
And and I'm going to talk about my last landmine here, and that is Tony Pollard. And his 2023 season left much to be desired. He didn't live up to expectations despite a significant role in that offense. His performance fell below average in key metrics as yards per touch and yards created per touch, ranking poorly compared to the other running backs. Despite ranking high in snap share, opportunity share, Pollard's underperformed in fantasy points per game, highlighted his inefficiency with his workload he received. Tony Pollard's uncertain role now with the Tennessee Titans, coupled with the emergence of Tyjae Spears, presents further concern. Spears, despite being a rookie last year, showcased impressive efficiency and effectiveness in limited opportunities. In terms of efficiency, he was great. He displayed remarkable 6.9 yards per carry, scoring the 91st percentile. Despite limited touches, he made an impact. Pollard struggled to capitalize on his volume. So Spears, with his skill set in this Titans offense, he showcased his ability to create after the touch. Considering Spears' emerging talent, Pollard's uncertain role, and the Titans' apparent trust in Spears' ability, it might be wise to prioritize Tyjae Spears over Tony Pollard in fantasy drafts in 2024. I'm out on Tony Pollard. He is my number one landmine at the RB position, Biggs. I just don't see it.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about an unknown role. Let's look back to like some situations last season, like in Cleveland, Baltimore, Dalvin Cook in New York. We know his role. His role is just like Alexander Mattison in Las Vegas. His role is just like Nick Chubb is going to be in Cleveland. His role is going to be exactly like Aaron Jones in Minnesota. He's going to be the RB2. Tyjae Spears is going to be the starter, and if Tony Pollard can find his way on the field, and let's face it, he's not as efficient as a running back as Tyjae Spears, regardless of the fact that we waited on him for 4 years to be the RB1 in Dallas, and he didn't break it. We're looking at
him. He did break it. He broke his leg and never recovered.
Sure. Thank you, Schultze. We are looking at the same situation as we see. It's a tale as old as time. And he's not going to do anything. There's no reason for him to be drafted with his draft capital. There is a litany of running backs who you would be better off taking than Tony Pollard. And just don't, because boom! It's a landmine.
Yeah, man. All right, that's about it for us today on the Fantasy Forecast on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We're continuing to gain steam on this network, so continue to like, subscribe, and share our stuff. Tell your friends and family about us. Biggs you can find him on the Twitter machine at Big Boned at FFB, and you can find me at FFCanuck99. Biggs, what do you got to say for everybody?
I hope you win.
I hope you win.